This film was recommended to me by a friend of mine. So, naturally, their recommendation prior that I put up on this channel, Malignant, ended up being one of my favorite movies of that year. And so, based on that trusting of their judgment, I grabbed X to see what it was all about. Man, I was not disappointed. X was both a refreshing and yet familiar take on the slasher genre. I had no idea what this was. I would continue passing this on the shelves, and I would see X. Well, what's X? What's going on with this? She's holding an axe, and there's an X, and what is this? I had never heard of Ty West before, so I had no idea what films that he had done previously. I didn't know who any of these people were, so I was like, okay, I don't know anything about this. I don't feel like giving it a chance. Then, after their recommendation, I picked it up. I looked on the back, and I saw right here, A24. Right away, I thought, you know what? I think this could be good. I didn't see A24 on the front cover. It's on the spine, and it's on the back. Lionsgate's also here, but A24 is that main little number here. One of my favorite movies that came out this year was Everything Everywhere All at Once. That was another A24 film. And usually A24 is that studio, is that company that pushes out hits far more than flops. I could list so many of my favorite horror flicks or just general dramas that I've watched over the past few years, and they end up being A24 flicks. I talked about Hereditary on this channel, and while I admit that that is a very overblown and overrated film, I would agree that it is a very good film. It's a very refreshing take on the genre, and I was so happy that there's not a jump scare every 10 seconds. It was a very satisfying film, even though it was pretty overhyped, and I feel like the overhypeness might have taken away from my experience of the film. This is quite the opposite, actually. I heard absolutely nothing about X until my friend recommended it to me. So, after watching it, I had no expectations. I had no high expectations, no low expectation. I didn't think it was going to suck. I didn't think it was going to be great. I just watched it to watch it. I didn't look anything up about it. And I think that's the best way you can go into this movie, is going into it completely blind. And when you come out of this, you think to yourself, this reminds me of so many slashers of the past, and yet it felt refreshing at the same time. There's plenty of slasher flicks that deal with the whole sexuality genre, with the whole teenagers getting it on and then somebody slashes them up. Friday the 13th is pretty popular with that remark there. Jason killing anybody, all the teenagers who are having intercourse out there and all that stuff, because it draws back to his character and his story. And you look at plenty of other types of slashers and you think that genre is kind of tired. That thing is kind of tired. So we're kind of tired of seeing it. Even though it's very satisfying to watch, the first ones of that genre that you have seen, like Friday the 13th, when you see a new film come out of this type of genre, you immediately think, oh, it's just another slasher flick. But then A24 comes in and says, this is familiar and yet it's different at the same time. We're going to do something that both gives you this feeling of familiarity, yet it's also a complete stranger to you when viewing it. You are both familiar with the surrounding, you're familiar with the set pieces, you're familiar with the story, and yet it's done in such a way that it feels refreshing. I can't really describe it any more than refreshing. It's like refreshing a tired genre into something new and good again. And recently they've come out with a prequel to this story called Pearl, which I may eventually see in time, and it deals with something very interesting with this. We're not going to talk too much about the plot, we're just going to talk about some of the set pieces, some of the designs, some of the characters. Now, on the back of the case here, it deals with a group of young kids, not kids that are clearly adults, college age adults, young 20s. And they're coming out here to the sticks, out in the middle of nowhere, to rent a cabin on this old man's farm to use it as a set piece for an adult film that they're going to make. Naturally, with adult films, there's going to be scenes of intercourse. And they get into that and they talk about how, in regards to how you can be in a romantic relationship with somebody yet while still engaging in like adult film star activities. You're engaging in sexual activities with plenty of other people, and yet you don't feel like that's taking away from your romantic attraction to somebody else. It's a pretty hot subject. It's a very deep subject, but they talk about it in this film, and I thought the directions that they went in were not necessarily deep, but they were deep enough to get you thinking about it, if that makes sense. And then we get to the slasher part, which is after the halfway marker. So we got to set up the characters so that you could care about them when they get axed. On this farm, there's an old man, and then he has a wife named Pearl. This old lady is very creepy. She's got a lot of creepy shots. The best way I could describe it would probably be the first Halloween movie, when you're having the camera focusing on one of the characters and standing outside the window. There's no music playing, there's no creepy rise, there's no jump scare, but out there, outside, in the window, you see Michael staring at her. There's no spooky music or nothing, but it's just settling on that scene, and it makes you feel unsettled. It makes you feel very unnerved. That's what this old lady was. She was in the background in a lot of shots, but we're not focused on her. We're focused on these other characters and whatever they're doing. And I feel like that's a great setup, that there's something wrong with this old lady. And then at the third act, this old lady goes full on Jason on all of these characters. She hacks them up, and you're like, wow, this lady's got an arm on her. And it gets very satisfying. A lot of the kills are satisfying. It's not a film for the light of heart. This is not something to take grandma to. This is something that, if you're a fan of Friday the 13th, of Halloween, of The Strangers, of what's a good one? The Axeman, maybe Hatchet. If you're a fan of the like serial killer type of film, where you have a killer going in killing a group of college-age kids, then this might be one of those films for you to watch and get a refreshing take on that genre. You may have seen plenty of these types of films before, but this one's still going to feel like it's refreshing to you in that really satisfying way. X is definitely a great recommendation. I'm going to continue to take recommendations from this guy, because he has given me two fantastic films to talk about: Malignant and X. Excellent. Very excellent. Very imaginative.